right, good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 205, and this is a show where we share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation. But before we get on with the show, I want to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, youtube.com/PS This Is Awesome, and visit our Twitter at PS This Is Awesome. And if you want to make fun of our trophy list on the PSN, you can find me at anchorlist_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at jakesaw01. And as always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com, and most importantly, don't forget to share the show with your friends. Be sure to leave comments and rate the podcast as you see fit. And as a reminder, this is a video podcast as well, so you can tune in and check that out on our YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe to that. And for new and or long-time listeners, we now have a Patreon. You can support our show at a $1 level called the one and only $1 Club. So head over to www.patreon.com/PSThisIsAwesome, become a $1 patron, and get your free die-cut vinyl sticker and a shout-out on the show. And I want to preface this episode with, I am recovering from the C virus. Jake had it last week. I had it this week, so if you hear me clearing my throat and coughing and all that stuff, I apologize in advance. It's just going to be baked into this episode. I'm not taking the time to edit it because I'm not back to 100% yet, but we are going to do the podcast regardless. So with that out of the way, Jake, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's been a day. I don't know. I'm trying a new thing. One of the things that COVID kind of did for me was made me appreciate the idea of just not leaving the house. And just because of work and stuff, I have a hard time with feeling like I haven't accomplished anything, or like my day is not complete unless I've left the house to do something. Whether it's go to the grocery store or get gas or go to work or go to Home Depot or whatever it is. Feels like I haven't done everything. And so one of the things I'm really trying to do more of is just stop trying to find, other than obviously work, but stop trying to find reasons to leave the house and just spend time at home.
Yeah, that's
because why waste the gas driving around and whatever.
The silver lining is always what I try to point out to people, right? And while that's not one for me necessarily, quarantine has been kind of miserable. I've just been so fatigued and tired. Everybody has different symptoms, like we talked about in the show, but mine are this cough, right? My O2 levels are fine, so don't worry, listeners. Everything's fine on that end. But I just have this cough that I just can't seem to shake, and it comes back in the evenings, and then I'll get bouts of absolute exhaustion, where I took a nap today for a half hour because I couldn't stay awake. So it's just kind of weird. But I guess quarantine has offered me the ability to play. I played through a game here the last couple of days. Been off of work because I can't go to work with this shit in my system. But what I have kind of enjoyed is it kind of forces you to slow down. And I didn't realize how much I had been doing. The podcast. The podcast is like the least of the things that I do, right? Do the podcast, work full time. I'm constantly like trying to write stuff for my band, for The Flood, or rather for One Up My Land, and we'd started recording. And then on top of that, I've been gigging, and stuff. And then, you're married, you have obligations at the house. And then in between all this stuff, we have hobbies, right? Like I like to do the board game stuff and the video game stuff, and you have your things, and it's just like, man, with all this shit, it gave me an excuse to say, forget about it. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not gonna pick up the guitar. I'm not gonna worry about One of My Land finishing out those 3 songs that kind of need fine tune. I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm not gonna stress on it. I'm not gonna stress on booking stuff right now. I have a reason to not do anything, and everyone in the world is going to say, yeah, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate reason not to fucking do anything. And that feels nice. Because a lot of people can have opinions like, oh, that guy's just being lazy. That, you're just making up an excuse not to do stuff. Now, granted, you could do stuff when you have COVID if you're not feeling well. But right now it's the most broadly accepted excuse to like put your feet up and just try to like relax a little bit. So I do so seldom of that. It's crazy. Even my hobbies start to feel like jobs. I don't know, like the music stuff definitely does at times, but like even like I'm trying to finish painting all those Hero Quest figures. Dude, I love doing it, but like it's at a point where like, dude, that game came with like 170 miniatures. So to hand paint every single one, like it's just like fuck. Dude, I'm so close to finishing them. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they all look rad. They look so good right now. But it's starting to feel like a job. So to take a break from it was really nice. Well needed. So that's the silver lining of coronavirus for me. So maybe while it's not finding a reason to leave the house, it's being stoked to be able to stay home. And just have a reason to be at the house and not feel like I need to do shit at the house. Because that's usually my stomping grounds. So, anyways, there's that, dude. It's been a pretty good day, though. I guess I'll just catch the listeners up real quick on what I've been doing with my downtime. I started I finished season 1 of Peaky Blinders on Netflix. Have you watched that show? You probably haven't.
No.
It's pretty good. And then I started season 2. And then we'll get into games that we're playing, Jake. So I talked about how I have the C virus and you have had the C virus. But don't
call it that.
What's that?
Don't call it that.
Well, the reason I'm doing
just say COVID.
For 2 reasons. I heard that some YouTube videos are getting like flagged because they say it. They say it on the channel, and then they get flagged.
Who cares if we get flagged? What are they going to do to us? Take our video down?
We're not spreading any kind of falsehoods or anything. But the reason I'm calling it C virus is because I played and beat Resident Evil 3 where they talk about the T virus. That was my lead-in. Jake rolls his eyes. You could watch it, folks, on YouTube. But, so I played through and beat the Resident Evil 3 remake. And it's incredibly short. I sent you, I tried to call you and you were busy, but then I sent you a text. I beat the game in like 5.5 hours. I couldn't believe how short this game was. I was like, this can't be the end. It's a really good game. I won't play it again. I'm glad to have played it. I bought it on the cheap on a Black Friday sale.
Does it have like multiple players for different angles of playthrough like RE2 does, or is it just the one arc?
So you play Jill Valentine, you start as her, and then there is like a knight in shining armor that shows up, Carlos, and the game, you don't get to pick. It just throws you as the story progresses. It throws you. It does like what The Last of Us does, right? It's like all of a sudden you're playing Carlos, and then after a while,
it's not like it's not like at the beginning you get to choose which player you play as.
Right, correct.
Like RE2.
Right.
Okay.
So unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty certain that is the game. You know, that's it. I mean, you fight the nemesis 3 or 4 times throughout the game. And that's like the big monster that's kind of like constantly on your heels. It was good. What I really liked about it was I think they were able to pump this game out so fast. It's because they clearly used the RE engine. Resident Evil 2 remake came out, and then it was like a year later, Resident Evil 3 remake came out. And it was like, wow, how did they pump that out so fast? Well, the police station in Raccoon City is reused in Resident Evil 3. So that whole thing was already built. So they use it again in Resident Evil 3. The exact same stuff. And it was actually really cool to come back to it in Resident Evil 3 and be like, oh shit, this is the same police station. This is awesome, you know? So I actually really enjoyed the tie-in. I loved how the games kind of like intertwined a little bit. Really enjoyed it. What else I did this morning, I started playing the co-op Hazelight game A Way Out with my friend and listener of the show, LJ. And we got about halfway through the game, and the game's really good, man. It's more of a cinematic movie that you just kind of like play. There's really not a whole lot of free reign over gameplay. It's more so just following button prompts and going through it. And you can fuck stuff up and get in trouble and get hurt and get killed and restart and stuff, but it's very linear, even though it's 2 people. In the game, the way it works is it's a split screen game, so I can see his character and I play as mine. So even though we're playing remotely with one another, we can still see what the other person's doing because the game requires you to puzzle solve with one another, and you almost have to see what the other person's doing to make suggestions on how to solve the puzzle. Like, oh no, you should go over to that place, and I'll go to this place, and then we'll do this at the same time. So, or the game starts as a prison break kind of game, and then we're out of prison now in the game without spoilers, and then we have a shared common goal outside of prison that we're trying to achieve together. So we're kind of on the lam with one another. We're running from Johnny Law, and it's pretty good. Like the voice acting's good. Joseph Fares does a lot of voice acting for his own character. I know it's an older game. The graphics are good. I'm really enjoying it. He and I are hopefully going to finish it up. It's apparently like maybe 6 hours, 7 hours to play. We got about halfway through this morning and wrapped it up around like 1:30 this morning. But or this afternoon rather. But so that's been going good. I did that, and then I did dive into Darkest Dungeon again. And the way this game works is some of the final, like every boss has iterations in Darkest Dungeon. So you go through the dungeons and then you just kind of level up your characters, and they get progressively harder. And then, some characters won't go in the dungeon if it's like level 5 and they're level 3. They're saying, no, I'm not, it's way over my head, But some of the bosses start off easy as well. And then so it starts off as like the lost prophet, and then it's like the something prophet, and then the blah blah prophet. And then I finally beat the hardest prophet yesterday, and it's the gibbering prophet, and he's a straight up badass and tough to fight. So pro tip, the way that I did it was I used the I believe it was the occultist and the other healer that's a woman character, and I used their spells to negate his damage. I just kept casting these spells on him. So, because he has some maneuvers that you really can't dodge, and they do tons of damage. So if you can get enough spells on him fast enough, you can reduce the amount of damage it causes your characters, and then over time you can just whittle down his health. So that was the trick, is reducing his ability to damage you, because you're gonna get hit. And I didn't think about that. I actually looked it up, but it worked. Beat him. So I have a few more fourth iteration bosses to beat in that game. So I got through one of the hurdles, and it felt really good to beat him. So I did that. Jake, what have you been playing over the week? Have you been doing any gaming, or are you just looking at news? Or
Very little. I have been dealing with some stuff this week, so I haven't really had a chance to play almost any. I played a lot when I had COVID, but I didn't get to play much of anything this week.
Yeah.
I played, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours of Death of the Outsider, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, and it's good. I don't know. I'm kind of over it. And I don't know why. I think it's because I just don't feel like playing that type of game right now. It's really good. The game is really good. Yeah. I have a problem with those games where when I played the first Dishonored, I platinumed it. And one of the things you have to do to platinum the game is you have to beat the entire game, without ever being seen once.
Yeah, forget that.
Or without killing anyone. So, and you could still like knock people out and stuff, but like if you knock someone out, and then I think even if like you knock someone out and their body's detected, you technically don't get the trophy. So grueling, it's pretty wild. But since I did that, like I really enjoyed that. That was like my favorite way to play the game, was to try to like get through it
stealth,
because the combat's fine, but like you're not designed. The character is not designed for head-on combat, so it's difficult. You either have to like run away and try to hide, and then come back, or so. Especially in this game, because you have a limited number of powers. It's not like in the regular Dishonored games where you can get these like really offensive powers. Whereas in Death of the Outsider, it's more tactical stuff, like movement and like spying and stuff like that. And so I have a problem where when I'm playing it, as soon as a guard sees me, I reload my save.
Oh man.
As soon as a guard sees me, I reload my save. And I keep because I can't, like, that's just how I play it. And so it's taking a long time for me to get through some of these parts of these missions because I want to get through it without being detected. And, you know, because like it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, where like the thing about Metal Gear Solid 5, in my opinion, it was the most fun to do those like bases and stuff and not ever get seen. Like take everybody out with stealth, use like the tranquilizer gun and like hide the bodies and like do all that kind of stuff. I really liked playing it that way. I was never like a run and gun kind of Metal Gear player. And same thing with this. And so it's becoming frustrating. So I think what I'm going to do is I actually re-downloaded Outriders.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to jump back into that.
Yeah.
And I also I want to jump back into and finish off Forza Horizon 5. But yeah, no, I haven't really played a whole lot. Just I've been playing Death of the Outsider, and I've been kind of him-hawing about playing it because it's fun, but I get frustrated because I can't play it without, you know, being stealthy.
Well, that's your own fault, man. But
I know, but it's like, because the thing that sucks about it too is like if you get seen, then you have to do this whole sequence where you're like running and hiding and stuff.
Yeah,
and like,
right.
I don't enjoy that.
You got to wait for the cooldown period.
Yeah, so for me, like it's just quicker and easier to just fucking restart the instance and then just, you know, because you can save whenever you want. So that's the one thing that makes it kind of easy. I say easy in quotes, but like you can save constantly. So if you have to reload, it's not like you're reloading a big section of the level. You can reload right before the encounter. So, you know, you're hiding in the air duct or whatever the fuck you're doing, getting ready to jump out and try to get through these guards. You can save right there. So if you get spotted, you just bang, start right over, bang, start right over. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot else to say on it, but it is, don't take that the wrong way. It's still really fucking good. It's just the way that my brain is working right now is not really jiving with it.
Yeah. Nah, I hear it. That's cool, man. Well, there's a lot of news to talk about. Why don't we just get on with that, man? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that actually has happened. It's been a really crazy news week. And I mean, we got to talk about the first thing that everyone probably has already drove into the ground and talked about, but we need to offer our opinions on it. And it's PlayStation related, but it's related in an ancillary way, but also a very direct way. But the news is the focus, like ground zero happened over at Microsoft, right? So the big news that dropped is that Microsoft announces their future acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and the deal is supposed to actually close in 2023. And at that time, all of the studios associated with Activision Blizzard will be reporting to Phil Spencer. So this is huge news. It hit pretty much every video game news channel. I forget what day it was. It was just this past week. I was actually sick the day you wrote me. You were like, "Oh my God, did you see this?" And I'm like, "Yo, dude, I can't even think about it right now." So it was like a double whammy day for me because it wasn't news that I wanted to hear, and I didn't have my nose to the grindstone, but or to the corn, I guess, or to the ground or whatever. Eyes on the corn, ears to the ground. I didn't have that situation going on when this broke, and I heard it from you first, so that'll go down in infamy as the day that Jake told me that fucking Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard. It just pisses me off. Nobody saw this coming, man, and it's really wild. Sony's stock went down considerably after this news broke, which is crazy. And but the deal is apparently for $68.7 billion. And we had just got done talking about Bobby Kotick and how much he's worth, right? You and I, we were just talking about this last episode.
Yeah, just about how much he made last year. Or in 2020, I guess it was.
So the listeners, if you listen to the show, you obviously listen to other podcasts, I would imagine, related to gaming. So you probably already know this. But a couple things I wanted to talk about, Jake, was Number one, why do you think that this occurred now than any other time? Do you think it's because of the issues going on at Activision?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was at least partially because of that, because I'm sure Activision was looking for a way to maybe not necessarily rebrand, but kind of, redefine themselves.
Yeah.
Because the issues have come out to have run so deep within that company that short of like a major rebrand or overhaul, it's not something that's going to be easy for them to do. And Microsoft probably came in once all of this kind of started and was like, hey, we'll fucking buy you.
Right.
And that means all of you guys can still become filthy fucking rich.
Yeah.
Because we're going to buy you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Bobby Kotick, literally, so the sale is $69 billion.
About, yep.
Bobby Kotick still owns like 35% of Activision.
Yeah, they said every share was purchased for like $90 some a piece.
So that means that Bobby Kotick is going to walk away from this deal with $15 billion in cash.
Well, yeah, after taxes, sure. Or whatever the fuck they're going to do.
Yeah, so like, so
excuse me.
Like I said, Activision's like, hey, we need to rebrand. We need to do something. We need to get away from this fucking, PR nightmare that is all the sexual harassment scandals and all this stuff that's been going on. And at the same time, Microsoft probably threw them a fucking buoy and was like, hey, we'll buy you. We're going to pay you less than you're worth, but we'll fucking buy you. And the thing is that I guarantee you Activision's worth more than $70 billion.
I don't know what they're worth, man, but I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff that like is so interesting. And it's like, I 100% agree with you that this isn't a coincidence that this is happening right around the time of all of the bullshit that's happening with the sexual harassment and like the boys club and all this stuff that's going on with Activision. Bobby Kotick just being apparently complete asshat, right? Like that's the gist. Is like, and I don't know a whole lot about that situation, but I would say that the gaming community largely falls on, I mean, no matter what your political beliefs are, that this guy has done a lot of shit that he shouldn't have done. So, I mean, it makes sense, man. Money, you can throw money at just about anything and make things disappear. And now, granted, it's not gone. Like, we know, like, that the shit still, whatever happened to Activision Blizzard still happened. But, like, money can solve a lot of problems. And it's one of those situations, unfortunately, it's the truth of the world, is that Microsoft's pockets are eternally deep. I mean, they fucking have Windows. Like, we've talked about this. Like, they have so much money that, like, it's a concern of mine, and I think a lot of people is like, if they can't beat PlayStation by, putting the time and the effort and the relationships into studios and kind of winning them over and just intrinsically in a natural way acquiring them and vetting them and making sure that the studios want to work with them, kind of like how PlayStation did Sony did recently with House Marquee or whatever you want to call them, or Fire Sprite. They've done some stuff with them. They've acquired these studios. They're long-standing relationships. These are people who exclusively, for the most part, have worked with Sony, but Sony just didn't pull the trigger and just say, hey, we're going to fucking buy you guys because we don't want Microsoft to scoop you up. They kind of did it in a natural way. And what's interesting about this to me is that Microsoft seemed to be doing this in a completely unnatural way. In a way that's just like, in Wayne's World, the movie The Wayne's World, where like they have their studio bought out, and then they recreate Wayne's basement somewhere, and they start filming Wayne's World in like a studio, and they're just like, whoa, Wayne, this is just like your basement. Yeah, this is really weird, Garth. It's just like our studio, but it's not. No, it isn't. This is cool, man. Way cool. And it turns out they're like, they just got bought out because someone saw money in them, not because they really wanted really cared about what the studios were doing, and they just saw dollar signs, right? And they had this, that Wayne and Garth got bought out, and they were underground dudes that just fucking sold out in a weird way and learned a hard lesson. But it's weird because I see it on the music industry front too, where like a lot of musicians now are turning down record deals because we have the internet. Like we don't need the fucking record labels. Like we need a publicist to kind of get our information out there, to put our music so people know about us. We need good marketing people. We need a good marketing team. We need decent distribution, which you can get online. We need all these things in place, but we don't need a label to do it now. We have all these third-party people that can do this for us. And I don't know that it sits comfortably with me that Microsoft is just going to start buying big AAA studios because they can. And
they're just this, in my opinion, this is probably, I'd say that it is probably it would probably challenge for the worst thing to ever happen in the video games industry. And I'm not saying that because of, Microsoft's going to win now.
Because we're like Sony fanboys, honest, right? It's just in general.
To be completely honest, I literally don't care about anything that Activision has. I don't care about any of their games. I don't play Call of Duty. You
do like Diablo.
Diablo is literally the only thing that they have where I'm like, okay, I might not be able to play Diablo 4 on fucking PlayStation now. But, that's sort of, you're talking about how the deal isn't going to close until 2023.
Right.
Part of me wonders if maybe a condition of that was Microsoft went to Activision and was like, hey, we want you to delay Diablo 3 or Diablo 4 to 2023 so we can lock it down. And that might be the case. But to me, it's like, the thing that's scary is that Microsoft is literally, they're doing some good things for gaming. Like I think Game Pass is good for the consumer, even if it's not good for the market. And the problem is that Microsoft is literally paying to win. And
right.
It's kind of like people always talk about how shitty microtransactions are in multiplayer games where you pay to win.
It doesn't feel earned.
This is literally that on the business level. Like they're literally paying to win. And I think about it, and I'm thinking about Call of Duty, for example. Call of Duty will sell 15 million copies a year. If you sell 15 million copies for, let's see here, 15 times 60. If you sell 15 million copies of Call of Duty at $60, that's $900 million. Let's round that up to $1 billion a year.
That's only if you only sell 15. I mean, like, what if they have a banger, right?
But what I'm saying, what I'm driving at is that.
Welcome to the PS This Is Awesome Patreon page. For those of you that don't know, my name is Fred Oakman.
And I'm Jake Peters.
And we're a PlayStation podcast currently in our 10th year. Our first episode aired in July of 2012, where we discussed and speculated on the arrival of the PS4. Over the years, we've used this podcast to take a break from adulting, share our love of video games, and in particular, PlayStation.
The audio podcast is available on all major streaming services, and we have recently made the leap to uploading video content and video podcasting to our YouTube channel, as well as the very occasional Twitter post or live stream. Over the years, we have covered everything from PS3 to PS Vita through the launches of PS4, PSVR, and now PS5. As our audience has grown over the years, we have decided to start this Patreon with the hopes of creating a medium in which we can give you the opportunity to help support our show.
And as a test bed, we're starting with a single tier. It's called the one and only $1 Club. So with your support at the $1 level, we're going to mail you a premium vinyl cut sticker and give you a shout out on the podcast. But at this time, unfortunately, we can only ship to the US and Canada. But this is subject to change depending on your interest.
So whether you're new to the show or you're a frequent flyer, we are forever thankful for your support and hope you can find it in your little gaming heart to join us in the one and only $1 Club. Until next time, like PlayStation, podcasting, and Patreon,
PS, this is awesome.
let's say they average $1 billion in revenue a year on Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't account for their cost in producing it. That doesn't account for their
distribution.
Their distribution and marketing. And the thing is that number is actually going to be probably at least cut in half because it's going to be on Game Pass. So it's not going to be sold. And when you think about it that way, now they're making, let's just say across all of their new games, just retail games, we're not talking about microtransactions or any of that shit, which I'm sure creates a lot of revenue. But if you're talking about specifically like Call of Duty and like Diablo and Overwatch and shit like that, let's say they make $5 billion a year in sales revenue on games. That means that it's going to take you, what is that, like 35 years?
Yeah.
No. It would be less than that. It would be like 10 or 15 years to
you're right.
pay off how you bought the Activision.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure that, like, I don't know what Activision's annual revenue is. We might actually be able to figure that out. Activision annual revenue. So I don't know. This is in millions. So Activision's 2020 revenue was $8 billion. So that doesn't take out any of their costs. That's literally the money they took in.
The gross, yeah.
Even at $8 billion a year, it's going to take them, what is that, 9 years to pay off the $70 billion that they fucking spent on Activision. And that, like I said, that doesn't include any of their fucking operational costs.
For those 8 years, right. It doesn't cover any of those.
For those 8 years. So it's more than likely going to be at least double that or more.
You're looking at
now,
like
maybe
16.
they'll be able to...
They have other studios too, though. They got Bethesda and they have the Xbox Game Studios. So they now they can wrap in their Windows money and all these other fucking things coming in, and they're just, I see what you mean though. It makes sense what you're saying.
They're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay for it with the other businesses within Microsoft. Right. They're not gonna pay for it with Xbox because Xbox has never been a big earner for them.
Right.
It's like it's like their smallest fucking.
No,
business.
Sony's still
vertical.
ahead of them in the video games world.
But, I don't know if you saw recently, like, one of the things that I thought was really interesting and kind of wild is that Phil Spencer, who is the head of Xbox, came out and said that basically said, he didn't confirm it, but he basically said that their goal, their plan is to, when the deal goes through, they're still going to release Call of Duty on PlayStation. They're not gonna make it exclusive.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
And to be fair, that's fucking smart because they're gonna release it on PlayStation. They're gonna make 70% of the profit when it's sold on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. PlayStation only gets 30% of that, and then,
probably give it away for free on Game Pass, right on Xbox.
They give it away for free on Game Pass,
and then sell it to anyone who doesn't have Game Pass.
And that's the thing. And if Sony is still the market leader in consoles, then they'll sell it at a 70% revenue. And then if they're the console leader because of the industry shifts or whatever, then now they're gonna basically drive up Game Pass subscriptions, which is what they really ultimately want.
That's the goal. And
so
yeah, we have a
I don't know. To me, I just worry about this, and I worry about like the consolidation and the monopolization in the game space. So like this, it was cute. I don't want to say it was cute. It was a little bit nerve wracking whenever Xbox bought Bethesda because it was like, holy shit, Xbox just whipped out $7 billion to buy a publisher.
It was like, wow.
But I was like, all right, whatever. Like, they didn't buy any of the big guns. It was like, Bethesda has a lot of shit that I love, but it's not like they're monopolizing the industry.
Yeah.
This basically, they exposed their hand.
Yeah.
This is like the fucking, this is like the bad guy in the movie revealing himself. You know what I mean? It's like, look,
I thought it was a little sketchy at first, right? Yeah, and then you're like, oh wait, that guy just killed a puppy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. Yeah. It's like
I'm not. To be fair, I'm not saying Microsoft is a bad.
No, but their intentions are clear.
Their intentions are clear. They're trying to be successful, and it's just they're doing it by potentially destroying the industry. And in terms of like consolidating, which kind of squashes creativity and all that kind of stuff, and they're doing it by literally just swinging their big fucking financial dick in Sony's face, just bam, bam, and it's scary. I mean, and that's not even from, because I have an Xbox Series S. So I don't give a shit. I can play both of them. It doesn't matter to me, right?
It's not going to affect you.
But to me, it's like, I'm worried about what it's going to do to the industry.
Yeah. So I've got two things I want to say real quick about it. First point I was going to say is do I inherently believe that Phil Spencer really is going to put a lot of effort into these studios when they get acquired? 100%. I think that he actually cares. You know, he seems like a guy who cares about gaming.
He seems like a good guy.
He seems legit, and he seems like he's really trying to put their best foot forward and work with Sony and work with these companies and just kind of like move gaming forward in a direction that he thinks is the right direction. His intentions, I think, are probably okay, but we have to think about this on a long-term timeline, right? What happens when Phil Spencer retires and gets replaced by somebody? And maybe that person's intentions...
by some Don Matrick type or something.
Yeah. Isn't like as like... bad. Phil said he was going to put Call of Duty on PlayStation, but you know what? Not me. That ain't how I'm running this shit. I'm in charge now, and I'm pulling all this shit. I'm pulling legacy shit. I'm doing all this shit, and I'm taking it away. And we are going to have a monopoly, and we're going to run it like a monopoly because we don't pay, $78 billion to not do that, right? So, like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And they're going to start...
I mean, to be fair... I was just going to say, to be fair, if Sony did this, if Sony bought Activision, they would 100% lock all these games.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Now,
you'd be idiotic not to.
Right. But Microsoft, it looks like, is going to at least try to extend the biggest titles to PlayStation as well. And the one thing that I see as kind of a positive to this is it might, and this, I don't know if this is a positive so much as it's a curiosity to me, is that I almost guarantee you that Microsoft really wants to get Game Pass on PlayStation. And this is where I was going to go with my second point. Type of move to like force Sony into making an agreement with them to be like, hey, look, because it could be like you said, down the road, there might be a CEO that's like, hey, Sony, guess what? You can either let us put a version of Game Pass on PlayStation, or we can just fucking lock down Call of Duty.
Yeah,
and
you pick.
That's
the line is drawn.
Scary.
You think the line in the sand is drawn now? Just wait until Phil Spencer's out of there and the next person comes in. Do you think it's bad now? Just wait, because the devil That's all I'm saying. The devil
I like to think that, I mean, they have a pretty good, Microsoft seems to have a pretty good culture within their management.
Oh, yeah, I'm not shitting on Microsoft. So, I'm just, my concern is
I guess I'm just saying I would like to think that if Phil Spencer did leave, they would ascend somebody within the company who probably has a similar sort of mindset, because Phil Spencer really did save Xbox after Don Matrick totally fucking drove it into the ground with Xbox One's launch. So it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, we could literally talk about this fuking topic all night long.
Oh yeah, we could. But I think the monopolization is. I think you hit it on the nose. Like, because this only means is EA next? Is who's the next studio that Microsoft's just going to sweep? Because they're not showing any signs of stopping, right? So there's got to be another one.
Well, Activision is part of the reason why this is so crazy is because Activision is the biggest. They're the biggest publisher in the world. It's not only just Activision, but it's Activision with Blizzard and King, who is a big mobile developer who we don't really care about.
Candy Crush and stuff, yeah.
But like fucking Candy Crush alone is worth like billions of dollars. So it's it's pretty amazing. Like if they bought what this says, and the reason why this is like, that sort of dark shadow ascending on the industry is like, if Microsoft can buy Activision, they can buy anybody.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh, 100%. Here's the funny thing, and this is the last point, because you touched on will Games Pass now be coming to PlayStation. My last point, and then we're gonna name every studio now that Microsoft owns real quick, because I made a nice list of it, which is it's jaw dropping when you hear them read out loud.
Yeah.
So my next point is this: do you think the people at Bethesda are like, God damn it, like, we thought that they were only willing to spend like do you think Bethesda could have ran that deal up a little higher, knowing that Microsoft wanted them so bad? What if they would have turned it down? Microsoft would have probably, their goal is to do this. So if Bethesda would have been more stubborn about it, they probably could have got 10, 15 billion instead of the 7. They could have doubled up maybe. Like, they're probably God, are you kidding me? Like, we could have made more than that. If they're going to throw $68 billion to Activision Blizzard, like, we could have maybe got 10. Like.
Here's the thing. You might be right, but my opinion on that is that, first of all, Microsoft already overpaid for Blizzard or Bethesda, because I don't know that Bethesda was necessarily for sale. Microsoft came in and was literally just like, here's a fucking pile of cash, and they're like, okay, I guess we're for sale.
Yeah. And
the other part too was that they bought Bethesda during the peak of the pandemic. So,
that's true.
So, there's a little bit more desperation there as far as the sale goes. But I see what you're saying, and it definitely could have been that if they'd have just held out, maybe they would have been able to secure a bigger bag. But yeah, it's
an interesting thing to think about. But like,
really, it's really, to me, I think it's really interesting, but it's also really scary. Someone at work, I was talking to somebody at work about this, and they were just like they were literally like, why doesn't Microsoft just buy Sony? Literally think about it. Because if they spent,
that would be a monopoly, I would think.
If they spent 68, well, that's the thing, right? Is they're already sort of tiptoeing a line with the FTC buying Activision. So if they were to buy Sony, I mean, that's just a straight up fucking monopoly. I mean, technically they're still Nintendo, but they're not like really a direct, they are a direct competitor probably as far as the FTC is concerned. But as far as like everyone in the industry is concerned, Nintendo is not a direct competitor to Microsoft and Sony. They're competitors with each other. But Sony, I don't know off the top of my head what their net worth is, but I guarantee you that probably for maybe double or a little more than double what they spent on Activision, they could have just straight up bought Sony. And then they would have literally been the kings of the industry.
That would have ruined video games forever.
Because
where's the competition then?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
You got to have competition.
It would have ruined the console space.
Yeah.
Because then it would have just been like, okay, everything's on Windows.
Right. I want the listeners to know, I didn't say that because of being a Sony fanboy. Like, in order to have better shit, you got to have competition. You got to have it.
You really do.
You can't have like just one player. You got to have both. The rest, could you imagine if the only studio we had was, I don't know, say Raven Studios, the only studio making video games? Can you imagine, like, they wouldn't be pushed to make better shit because you could only get your stuff from them. So what's it matter? Like, they're not competing with anyone else, so the shit isn't going to get better. So if
you could even bring that in to say, what if the only studio, or the studio that sold the most games, was Naughty Dog?
Yeah.
Naughty Dog makes, right now, they make the best games on the market.
Arguably,
pretty much.
right? It's
arguably, right? I mean, in terms of quality and what you get.
Right.
But if Naughty Dog didn't have any competition, like, and nobody was pushing them, like, it wouldn't be
as good.
It wouldn't be as good. Eventually it would fall off. Like, if you think about it, Sony was top dog with PS2 and Xbox was shitty. Sony, their head got too big for their britches. They released a $600 console in the PS3. Xbox 360 came out and fucking blew Sony out of the water. So Sony had to double back. And now with the PS4, they're like, okay, games, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, now we're the better console. And then fucking Microsoft sort of fumbled.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to have this competition, and so it is scary.
A lot of that comes from earning it too, which is the thing that sits so sadly with me with this Microsoft just paying to win. Like you said, I couldn't put it better. This is a thing that everybody's fighting about in the video game world. Like, we don't want to be able to like pay to win. This is ridiculous. They should be done with that shit. Like it's not fair. And then Microsoft just turns around and pays to win. They just do it. It's so blatant. But let's talk about the studios real quick. I'm going to name off the studios real quick that are now part of Microsoft. Well, not 100% part of it, but after the Activision deal is closed. So under Activision, they're going to have Treyarch, Raven, High Moon, Infinity Ward, Toys for Bob, Beanox, Sledgehammer Games, Blizzard, and King. Under Bethesda, they're going to have Bethesda, ID, Tango Gameworks, Machine Games, Arcane, ZeniMax, Alpha Dog, Roundhouse Studios, and then the Xbox Game Studios comprises of Rare, Double Fine, and Exile, the Initiative, 343 Industries, the Coalition, Turn 10, Mojang Studios, Undead Labs, Obsidian, Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, Playground Games, and Xbox Game Studio Publishing. That is a ridiculous amount of game developers and studios. Like, that's just crazy.
It's pretty nuts.
It's just crazy to think about. To say it out loud hurts.
Count it, but it looks like fucking 30 some studios or something.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, the only if I were to look in terms of Activision, we're not going to go through all the Microsoft stuff, but in terms of Activision, like, to me, the best studios that they have in terms of games that I've liked that have been made is Blizzard and Raven. Those two studios, and Blizzard has fallen off in recent years.
Yeah, they have.
They haven't really made a good game in a while. But Diablo 4 looks cool, and if it launches in a really good state, I'll be excited for it. But, Raven, which is a fucking top-tier developer, has just been relegated to doing Call of Duty shit. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm almost excited about with Microsoft buying Activision is maybe they'll go to a studio like Raven
and let them develop something new.
Man, we know your chops. Go fucking make something awesome.
Yeah.
And they'll just go off and make their own shit again. But yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of sort of wrung this out at this point. But yeah, I don't know. It's by far the biggest news of the week, and it is, like I said, it's like the scariest thing to happen in the industry for a long, long time. I mean, it's because we don't know what it's gonna mean, right? We don't know what a. It's kind of like that, I don't know if you want to call it an old adage. It's science, but like when you talk about ecosystems, and when you just let's say we're to kill off all of the bees because we hate fucking bee stings, it would literally destroy the environment.
It would change it as far as we know, right? Yeah,
because of what bees do. We don't necessarily know what all would happen if all of a sudden bees didn't move pollen around and all that kind of shit. But it would definitely fuck shit up. And so that's my biggest concern, is that now that Activision is just, and Microsoft has come out and said, they're going to be autonomous and all this stuff, and we're just going to own them. But it's like, this could potentially cause shockwaves through the fucking, and change the way that the games industry works.
The topography of,
and that's what's scary about it.
Yeah, this is just, it's going to be essentially terraformed. The way the video game landscape is being terraformed by Microsoft right now, 100%. Yeah. But all right, well let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. So the PlayStation wrap up every year. Sony tracks your stuff, they track your stats, and they tell you your shit. And if you log into your Sony account, you can get your shit too. You can get your wrap up. Jake, let's go over ours real quick for the listeners before we continue with the news. It's always a fun review. We do this every year on the podcast. It seems like we do, and it usually incites some gaming conversation. And so we're going to talk about our personal wrap-ups, and then we're going to go, they left at the very, in between giving you your stats, they gave some stats about some PlayStation exclusive games, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So real quick, the first thing they talked about were how many hours did we put in 2021. I weighed in 526 hours, and then they break it down a little further. 272 of those hours, so about half, were spent playing PlayStation 5 titles, and 254 of those hours were spent playing PlayStation 4 titles, and then 1 hour was spent in VR. which is fucking hilarious.
That was probably the time it took you to set it up.
Yeah, probably. So Jake, I had 526 total. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I guess I could read mine off.
Yeah,
so I have 330 hours. And one of the things I will preface on this show is that, like, when I was looking at my wrap up, I was like, man, I know I played more than that.
Yeah.
And I know, like, my game count is higher. And I remembered, I played a bunch of shit on Xbox.
Yeah, you
so
did.
Like, there's like probably I probably split, half of my gaming between the two consoles. And I tried to play a lot of, third-party stuff on Xbox so that it was applicable to the podcast and all that stuff still. But so my numbers are going to be a little bit deflated just because of the whole
That's
Xbox
fine.
thing.
Yeah, no one's judging.
I played right. So according to the wrap up on PlayStation, I played 330 hours, and 281 of those hours was on PS5 games, and 49 of those hours was on PS4 games. So if you compare, like, Fred and I in terms of what we spent on PS5 versus PS4, Fred and I were having this conversation earlier about how Fred was like, I don't know if I played a lot of games that came out this year.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at my list and I was like, I played a shitload of games that came out this year.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of indicative based on, I played most of my games were PS5 games. Yeah. At least on PlayStation.
I was about 50-50, but you were definitely like 80-20.
Yeah, something like that.
So that's interesting. All right, so how many games did we play on our consoles this year while logged into PlayStation Network? I played 28 games, and order from the most played to the least played of my list, top five.
Well, the top five.
Yeah, top five. Right. We'll start. The number 5 was Destiny 2. Number 4 was The Evil Within, which is hilarious because all I did was play that game and beat it. I didn't even so I didn't spend a lot of time in that game. I just beat it. Was a long game though, and that's the one you lent me. That was a PS4 game. Number 3 was Darkest Dungeon, also a PS4 game. Ni no Kuni 2 at number 2. I put a lot of time into that game. That game's a bitch. I liked it. And then my number 1 game most played was MLB The Show on PS5, and I guarantee that's where most of my hours went.
Well, that's what it says it is. Do you, by chance, have your wrap-up open at the moment?
I don't.
Because I'd be curious to know what the hour count is for each, because it tells you what the hour count is for each of those games.
I'll try to open it up while you look.
Yeah, so, I'll just say mine while you're digging yours up. Mm-hmm. But, so mine is, again, on PlayStation, I played 11 games, which sounds really low, but apparently I put 330 hours in 11 games, which means I averaged 30 hours per game, which is pretty fucking ridiculous if you think about it. But, so my top 5 games were, fifth most is, I do have my thing up here. So
I pulled mine up too, so we can get into the nitty gritty if you want.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and just read off my my top 5. So my top 5 was Ratchet and Clank was 20 hours, Rift Apart, mind you, not the original from 2016. Then number 4 was Spider-Man Miles Morales at 24 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Number 3 was Returnal at 42 hours.
All right.
Number 2 was Far Cry 6 at 51 hours.
Yeah.
And number 1 was Immortals Phoenix Rising at 74 hours.
You loved that game. I remember that. Yeah.
I fucking love that
So
game,
I put 179 hours into MLB The Show, which is fucking insane. But I did platinum it. I didn't even know I was playing it that long. It's one of those games that it just came and went. Like
171 of your 279 PS5 hours was MLB The Show.
179 hours.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't know that I played it that long.
All of your PS5 hours.
I really had no idea. Ni no Kuni took 48 hours of my time to beat. Darkest Dungeon, I haven't beaten it yet, but that's 31 hours. The Evil Within took me 29 hours to beat that game, which is crazy. That game
seems like a lot, but I guess that's fine.
Dude, that game was long.
Yeah, it was long.
And then Destiny 2, I had 18 hours in that one. So,
right.
Let's move on to the next category, Jake. That's interesting. And then trophies. I unlocked 355 trophies, 1 platinum, 27 silver, or 27 gold, 68 silver, and 259 bronze. Jake?
Yeah, so this is like, I think this is kind of a little bit of the discrepancy between the two of us, is that like it seems like you played more games, but I played games more completely.
Yeah.
So like this kind of shows that even though you had a lot more hours and a lot more games than me, I had 291 trophies, which was pretty close to your 355. And a lot of that was I had 3 platinums, I had 15 gold, 40 bronze, and 233
gold, silver,
and then 233 bronze. So yeah, and those 3 platinums I got were in my top 5 games: Immortals: Phoenix Rising, Ratchet and Clank, and Miles Morales.
Yeah, I did jump back into Ratchet too. I didn't mention that at the beginning of the show. I jumped back into that to try to get some more trophies. I got a couple more. I didn't get all the Craig Bears, and I didn't. There's a couple other things that I'm still missing. Stupid little trophies that I didn't do. I could probably. I'm like 80% complete in that. I could probably get that plat if I wanted to. It's just I don't know. All right. Lastly, PlayStation Plus games. Sony offered 37 free games for PlayStation Plus. I have claimed 36, and Jake, it looks like you claimed 33 of those.
I'm kind of surprised, but I guess I'm not really that surprised. It was probably a couple months where I looked at the list and I was like, I don't give a shit about these. And I usually claim them anyway, but I must have just forgotten.
And it doesn't tell you which ones that you didn't claim, which is kind of weird.
Right.
But let's look at the fun stats real quick, and we're just going to run through this real quick. I'll run through it real quick. We'll get on the next news point. So fun stats for the PlayStation exclusive games. In Death Stranding, 19 billion plus likes or shares of that game, I'm guessing, within the ecosystem. There's 9.4 million deliveries made in Death Stranding. There's 45 million kilometers traveled and 55,000 total broken boots, which I don't know what that means because I've never played it. Returnal.
Yeah.
The most favored weapon was the Hollow Seeker.
Interesting.
And 4.9 million scout corpses were avenged. And 12 million hours were played of Returnal. That's a lot of fucking hours. And then the malformed Carbonics caused the most player deaths in Returnal. So whatever boss that was, or enemy that was.
I gotta...
you look up, see which one that one was. And then I'll move on to Ratchet while you look that in. 34.6% of players unlocked all trophies in Ratchet, which means 34.6% percent of players got the platinum. 26.1% found all the Craig Bears. 88.9% defeated Dr. Nefarious in Megalopolis. And 67% of players met Kit. So... that's crazy, that last number. I want to talk about that. Who?
Only 67%?
Yeah. You have to meet weird. Kit to, like, beat the game.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, like, the completion of that game. That's not a number I would have put on this because it's a weird statistic saying, like, not many, like, only a little more than half of the people that bought Ratchet beat the game, it seems like. So that's a weird stat. But who's the malformed Carbonics?
It's one of these bad guys that's kind of like a mini boss that you can fight if you go through one of the optional doors. Okay. I completely forgot about it. Yeah, he kicked my ass like every fucking time.
Fair enough. Yeah,
but it was optional most of the time, so I never really had to fight him.
Killed the most players, huh? So there's a new trailer. Next news point: new trailer for Uncharted: Legacy of Thieves collection. And if you are just now getting into the Sony world, right? You just got your fresh PS5 recently. Maybe you were an Xbox person, you came over. Maybe you have put gaming down for a long time and haven't caught up with gaming. The Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection would be the way to start into this amazing franchise that Jake and I both really love.
I disagree.
Oh, you don't think it would be a good way?
If you have a PlayStation, I disagree. If you're on PC, it's your only option. Do it.
What would you do if you had a PlayStation?
If you had a PlayStation, buy the fucking Nathan Drake collection.
Didn't they take it off?
1 through 3. No. They only took 4 and Lost Legacy.
Oh, fair enough.
Off of the store.
Fair enough.
So play 1 through 3 and then 4 and Lost Legacy. Don't fucking start at 4, which is the end.
I thought
of Nathan
that the
Drake's
Legacy of Thieves was all of them, was it not?
No, it's just 4 and Lost Legacy.
Oh, well, yeah. Play the Drake collection, correct. Play the Nathan Drake collection 1 through 3 because you have to play those in order. You must. Yeah. Thanks for the correction.
But they're releasing this on PC.
Yeah.
And the PC version does not. On PC, you cannot get 1, 2, and 3.
But I heard that isn't the Legacy of Thieves supposed to run better on the PS5 than Uncharted 4?
I'm sure it does. Yeah, I would say buy the Nathan Drake collection, which is 1, 2, and 3, and then buy the Legacy of Thieves collection to get
round it
upgraded.
out.
Yeah, to round it off.
Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't played those games, Jesus, what the hell are you doing? If I could go play them.
If you purchase the Legacy of Thieves collection, you get a free movie ticket to see the Uncharted movie.
Wow. Interesting. All right. Well, hey, this is kind of interesting news. And I wrote up a little bit of a little synopsis on what this means and what's interesting about it to me. So Deviation Games has expanded and set up a second studio in Canada. So the studio is partnered with PlayStation, and their new game will be published as a PlayStation Studios title, and it's rumored to be a first-person game. So Deviation Games was announced on June 10th, 2021, with Jason Bludell at the helm. Might be Bloodell, I don't know. But he was responsible as campaign design director for Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and was a game director for Black Ops 3 and was also co-studio head of Treyarch Studios until February 2020 when he left that studio. So Jason indicated recently that he wants to avoid, in quotes, the normal, the boring, the humdrum, end quote, with the new game that the studio is working on. So I just think it's kind of interesting that this guy jumped ship from Treyarch and came over to Sony. And this guy, I guess, was, however you feel about Treyarch, was a pretty driving force over there if you liked the Black Ops games. And now he's working for Sony as a PlayStation Studio game under Deviation. And they opened up a second studio. So that means that they must be doing some shit, right, to justify another studio already. So that's kind of cool. Anything on that?
Yeah, that is cool. I personally really did not like the campaign for Black Ops 3, but I am curious to see what he does because I think that Sony really needs a game like this.
Yeah.
And now Deviation Games isn't a first-party studio. They're just being funded in some capacity by Sony, which is interesting. It'll probably be like a second-party relationship, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is promising. Like, even though I didn't like Black Ops 3's campaign, I think that it was still quality.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what they end up coming up with.
Cool. That's a cool little news point I found. Courtesy of Push Square, and then kind of added a little flair into their little internet research for y'all. So Ubisoft has fulfilled their commitment to support WatchDogs Legion, and they are now no longer going to be supporting that game.
What does that mean? Their commitment to who?
To the fans. They said we were going to give you this DLC, that DLC, this many updates, and they've done it.
Okay.
And they're done with it. It's dead in the water. I guess there wasn't enough interest for them to kind of renegotiate and be like, not negotiate, but like make, once in a while, studio will be like, wow, this is doing better than we thought. We're going to push this a little further and give you this or give you that. They said, hey, you know what? We gave you what we said we're going to give you. We're done. We're done.
Right.
So that's done. And then there's a rumor that after all the vitriol the new Battlefield game is getting, 2042, that maybe it's just going to end up going free to play.
That would be really interesting if they did that.
Yeah.
I mean, they really dropped the fucking ball with this game.
I love the franchise.
And it is really a shame. But it'd be cool. It'd be really interesting to see it go free to play. Maybe it's like a semi-competitor to Warzone or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it could be cool.
Yeah. This last news point might not be the last news point, but it's getting close. It actually is the last news point. Jake, this is some of the coolest things. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I don't know if you read this. So Sony has a game called Dreams, right? It is released by Media Molecule. There's an artist who used PlayStation Dreams or is currently using PlayStation Dreams as a huge tool in the creation of an animated movie, and Sony Pictures Classics has acquired the rights to this movie. Not because he wasn't entitled to the rights to do this, but because they believe so much in what they're working on that they were like, listen, we want this. They bought it. So the artist This artist has previously worked on a former Oscar-nominated animation called Loving Vincent, and the writer-director Alex Halfrecht, let me see here, is directing this new movie being developed in Dreams called A Winter's Tale. And as a side note, Dreams right now is only $9.99 on the PSN, and I'm seriously considering checking it out. And for those who don't know, it was made by Media Molecule, like I said earlier, and there was a ton, and still is a ton of speculation about this project and whether it was worth it for Media Molecule to go full in on this. It's a game creation game, and it's a community-based game. So Media Molecule, of course, started off with Little Big Planet, kind of exploring user-shared levels, and they've evolved to create this new game/tool, and apparently it's really powerful. I recently stumbled on a thing where there was a screenshot, where there was a recent shot in Dreams of Jurassic Park of the T-Rex looking down and the lightning striking its face. Everyone knows that familiar scene. And there was a lot of speculation that some people couldn't even tell that it wasn't a grab straight from Jurassic Park. It looked that good, but it was developed in Dreams. And people weren't sure whether it was part of the movie or not. So I was 100% actually, Jake, considering when they announced Dreams, I think I told you that I thought it would be really cool to do a music video in Dreams, or to use video game footage to do a music video for one of my bands, one of my projects. I think it would be really fun to get in Dreams, just kind of dick around. And now that it's becoming apparent that it is a powerful tool, for $10, it might be kind of fun to jump in and mess around in. But I have no idea how rights work or how that stuff works. So if you are interested in this story and you want to check out some of the samples of some of the artwork that is going to be included in this movie, you can go follow an artist working on it. His name is Martin Nebelong. That's Nebelong on his Twitter. He's posted some short mini video clips of him editing in Dreams of some of these houses and different renders or textures that he's using. And it's really, really freaking interesting to think that you can make an animated film in this tool on PlayStation. And I mean, this director was previously involved in an Oscar award-winning animation, or nominee at least. And so like the legit people coming to Dreams to use this for their creative projects, which is just wild to me.
It's pretty interesting. And I would bet that, as far as rights go, I would bet that if you make something in Dreams, like, you have the right to that IP or whatever, but you probably don't have the right to sell it outside of Dreams.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like because it was created in Dreams or whatever, like, there's probably no way for you to export it as a movie and then sell that movie. Like, there's probably some weird
red tape or something
shit there. Yeah, I don't know, but it is pretty interesting. And $10 is definitely enticing to
just get in there and play around,
pop in and just see what the hell is going on. I've never been able to really latch on to games like this. You know, I've tried like RPG Maker, I've tried Project Spark on Windows, like I've tried a bunch of stuff, and I always and even like something like a level designer, like something like the level designer in Doom from 2016, you know, it's all really powerful and you can do really creative stuff with it, but the process of creation is so tedious on a console, using the controller to do all this stuff, that like I just get
it feels cumbersome at times,
But I don't want to take that away from the fact that I do think it's very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And another thing for the listeners to point out is it's not just a game creation tool. So you can go in and play anything that was made by anybody else. So that's what's cool about it. That was what was really cool about Little Big Planet. Or it was Little Big Planet. You could make levels like that. Yeah, you can go into just go explore, and then you can sort by rated items. So the stuff that's rated really high, you know, is going to be top level. And then, you know, you can share your thing. And when you're building games, the longer a game like this exists, assets that other people design, you can just use a search word and say like trees, and then it gives you like a bazillion different trees to pick from to put in your world that other people design. So if you're not really good at designing stuff, you're not artistic in that way, you can use other people's assets to create your own story, which is kind of really cool. So I don't know. It just seems like it's just going to just get better and better the longer it's out.
Yeah, it very well might. I mean, I think it's really neat.
Yeah,
it's I wish Sony would put it on PC because I think it would thrive there. And I don't know. I wish they would give you the ability to be able to sort of release the games that you make in Dreams outside of Dreams. Like I should be able to make a game in Dreams and then sell it on the fucking PSN
or on Steam or some
without
shit.
having to have Dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I digress. They could even have a whole separate storefront.
Yeah.
That you could buy games that were made in Dreams, but you don't have to have Dreams to play them.
I still think a music video made in Dreams would be so rad.
It'd be cool.
You could do it as long as you're not selling the video.
Yeah, well, you have to come up with the concept, but yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah, I just don't know how. I'm tempted to pick it up for $10 just to see what I could do with it. All right. Anyways, Push Square had a general PlayStation quiz. We like to do these on the show, Jake. I figure it's a special show. Do you want to do this real quick with me, or do you want to pass it?
Well, I was actually just wondering because we still have to do our Game of the Year picks. Maybe we save this for next week.
Do you want to save the quiz for next week?
I mean, unless you think that it's time relevant. I don't know that it really is.
I don't know that it is, but I like doing them. I won't look at it. If you promise not to look at it and cheat, we can do it next week.
No, I'm not going to look at it. Right. So, yeah, we can certainly. The listener will know if we get fucking 10 out of 10, we probably cheated because.
Don't say that because you're going to jinx us and we're going to get 10 out of 10. I think there's actually 15 questions. So let's wait till next week to do that. Just remind me to put it on the show notes. We'll do that for the listeners next week. If you want to take the quiz over at Push Square and see how you do, it is available there. And you can compare your answers with Jake and I next week. So we're going to move on with the show to trying to keep the show around about an hour apiece. So we're going to talk about our game of the year, which is a game that came out in 2021. And then we're each going to have our game of the year that we played. The rules are that Jake and I had to have played it. And then we're going to offer a follow-up, like a runner-up, right? So I didn't play a ton of games in 2021. And then we're going to talk about just a game that we played this past year, which was kind of a surprise or an unexpected good time, the number one, and then a runner-up. So let's do that. Jake, I will start with my game of the year. I'll just come out and say it that I played in 2021.
Do your runner-up. What is this? What kind of? No one's gonna give a shit about your runner-up.
All right, so the runner-up
first.
Start the runner-up. All right, fair enough. My runner-up was Kena Bridge of Spirits. All right, that came out in 2021. I liked it. It was a good game. It was one of the few games in 2021 that I played, and I liked it. That's all. It's a runner-up. It's not my number one pick, but it is a game that I liked. Jake, what's your runner-up?
So my runner-up for 2021, and I'm really bad at organizing like games by preference, especially if it's games that took that I played like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
But like my runner-up, so I did my best.
Excuse me.
And there's like a million other games that I could have picked, but my runner-up is Returnal.
Yeah.
And I just, I know that people have a lot to say about the save system and all that kind of crap or whatever, the technical issues at launch and all that. But I'll say this, it's fucking unique. It's the moment-to-moment gameplay is some of the funnest third-person shooting gameplay I've played in my whole entire fucking life. I'm not even kidding. And when I beat it, it was almost like the Dark Souls effect where I was so like excited to have beat the game and like learned and got through and beat everything that it really kind of made an impression on me. And the atmosphere and the story was really cool too.
And this was Housemarque's first 3D, third person game.
It was Housemarque's first like quote unquote AAA game. And I think they did a pretty good job. I would like to see how they iterate on this.
Yeah.
Hopefully with something that's not roguelike.
I think they're going to iterate on it with an expansion, but that aside, let's move on to our game of the year, Jake. Game of the year. This game was released in 2021. I played it, and I liked it better than Kena. That's all I have to say. Ratchet and Clank are ripped apart. And I will note that MLB The Show 2021 is not on this list. that game came and blew past me so fast. I don't know how I dumped 170 hours into that game because it didn't even cross my mind that I played it this year until I saw the trophy list. So MLB The Show
you didn't consider it as one of your games?
No, there was nothing special about it. It was just baseball.
But you played it for 179 hours.
It's just baseball, man. That's all it was. That's how good it's like a really good soundtrack you shouldn't notice, right? Like if you're making a game about baseball, there should be nothing about that game that's like, holy fucking shit, that's amazing. If you do it right, you don't even think about how good it is. It's just done right? So it didn't cross my mind.
Because it's good baseball game.
It's just good baseball. That's all that game is, and you can rely on it every year. Anyways, Ratchet and Clank, my number one game. I loved it, man. It was good. I was a little confused with the story because I played it kind of intermittently and the time travel and all the Dimensionator and all that stuff. Ultimately, man, this game was sweet. It was good. I think going back into it this past week to kind of pick up a couple trophies reminded me how pretty the game was, the graphics, just how much polish was on this game it really was a nice showing for the PlayStation 5. And it was a great experience. So I thank Sony for it. Jake?
All right. So my 2021 release that I consider to be my game of the year, and I don't know if this is going to be surprising or not. I'm like looking at the list right now, and I think that it's a good choice, and that's Psychonauts 2. I really liked that game.
It is a little surprising.
It was so good, and it's I have a bunch of other games on here that I definitely could have picked. To me, I didn't think that 2021 was a very strong year in terms of like the games that were released. There wasn't anything that came out that like fucking blew my brain. There were a lot of good games, but not a lot of like games that were just amazing. And I think that Psychonauts 2 was just one of those games that just it's a very heartwarming game. The way that the artwork's in the game, the music, the characters, the way that they show and portray, your mental faculties in terms of things like depression and anxiety and all of that kind of stuff. It's really, really a good game. And this is probably going to be the last Double Fine game we get on PlayStation because Xbox owns them now.
Yeah.
So if you have any interest at all, I would highly suggest you go play Psychonauts 2 because you can play it on PlayStation, and you just might not ever get Psychonauts 3.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That's a good pick, man. Forgot that game came out this year. I never played it. I know some people did and really enjoyed it, so you're not alone on that. So games that we played in 2021, which didn't necessarily come out this year, but we picked up, we got them, we played them, you and I played them, and were surprising in an unexpected better time than maybe we thought, or they kind of gripped us in a way. So my runner-up to this, and I don't believe it came out in 2021. I think it came out at the end of 2020, but my runner-up is Cyber Shadow. That platformer. I checked my trophies. I pretty much played this game in January 2021, and man, what a damn game this game was. Such a good side-scrolling game. I didn't know if it was what I needed at the time, and I remember even being on the show just being like, it kind of re-itched my itch for like good 8-bit, 16-bit, whatever side-scrolling games, and it's when I kind of got back into Castlevania after playing this game and played a couple of those games, and man, Cyber Shadow really, really did something to me. And what a fantastic game. Just the difficulty was on point. It was hard for a lot of people. I enjoyed the challenge because I knew I could get through it. I posted a lot of how-to videos of how to beat the bosses in this game. Got a lot of views on them, actually, on our YouTube channel. So I even had a flawless victory on one of the bosses, surprisingly. But yeah, man, Cyber Shadow was a fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they do a part 2 or not. So I hope that they do. The music was incredible also. Just fantastic music. Jake, what was your runner-up?
Yeah, Cyber Shadow. I played Cyber Shadow. Yeah. I didn't beat it, but I played it up until that battle with the fucking snake in the water.
Dude, that's the flawless victory I had.
Yeah. So, and I started playing something else, and I just fell off with it.
That was a really hard boss.
It is a really good game, and I think that it's an awesome, like, revision, like not revision, but like a revival of of a Ninja Gaiden type game, and I think it's really good.
It's a tweaked game, man, fine-tuned.
So my runner-up for games not released in 2021 that I think was amazing is a game that unfortunately you cannot get on PlayStation.
Oh no!
But it is. They announced that it is going to be released on PlayStation.
Okay.
It just hasn't been released yet. And that is also a ninja game called Katana Zero. And Katana Zero is essentially like Ninja Gaiden meets Hotline Miami.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking awesome. I haven't played a game. Like, literally, the first time I played Hotline Miami, the first Hotline Miami on Vita, like, how crazy of an impact that game made on me and how awesome it was and what a crazy awesome experience, like how everything from like the frenetic gameplay to how just adult and psychotic the story is, like exactly the same in Katana Zero. It's so fucking awesome, and I really cannot wait for this game to come out on PlayStation so that everybody that listens to this podcast can play it, because it is so good. It's side-scrolling. It's not top-down like Hotline Miami is, but it's similar in that it's like, remember Hotline Miami is very like fast-paced. You have to like kill the guards.
Small levels.
Die and like, yeah, it's very, very fucking awesome. So yeah, that's my runner-up for games not played in 2020 or not released in 2021, but that I played.
Your first experience with them was 2021. Yeah, same here. Right. So my number one game, my first experience in this game world. Talked a lot about it on the show. It should come as no surprise. It was not released this year. Darkest Dungeon, man. This game. If you're at all interested, man, it just really is something special. Just the tone, everything about this game. Have you tried this game yet at all?
I haven't, but it's on Game Pass, so I'm tempted to just download it and try it.
Just get it
because I don't have to pay for it, you know. So other than
it'll get its hooks in you, man. I think it will. It's so good.
My problem is that like recently, I've been more interested in playing games that aren't going to hamper me with things like cyclical playthroughs, like roguelikes, or like fucking permadeath and all that kind of shit.
This has a bit of that.
Darkest Dungeon has the permadeath and all that, and you know you have to be very careful about how you use your characters and everything. And I'm just at a point right now where I don't want to play something where I just have to constantly worry about losing. Where the ante is
so high. Well, this game opened up a lot for me, man. Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, but I really would recommend you to try it at least. I think there's a lot in. There's a voice actor in this game named Wayne June, and he actually does narration. And I took a trip to North Carolina, and had I not played Darkest Dungeon, I would never known of this guy. And this guy did a lot of H.P. Lovecraft audiobooks. Kind of, so you can find him narrating H.P. Lovecraft novels or short stories, and he's got the perfect voice for it. If you look too hard into it, I think he's done some erotic stuff, so don't be turned off by that or turned on by that, maybe, if you catch my drift. But
if you could be fucking turned on by it if you want. I mean, you can enjoy
we're not judging
however you want.
Yeah, we're not judging.
Judgment here.
But he also does the voice in Darkest Dungeon, and he has a fantastic voice. So this scratched my Hero Quest itch a little bit. Just the nature, the dungeon crawling, the really interesting delivery of the game, the art style, the voiceover, the grittiness, the Lovecraftian worlds. Like, it's just so good. This game is just so good. And they're working on a Darkest Dungeon 2, I would assume. And I'm just... Red Hook Studios. I'm just waiting for it. I can't beat the first one, but I still just come back to it, and I just keep playing it because it's so good. Like, I don't even care if I win or lose. Like, it's just there's just something about the game that, like, it's like the cover of Resistance 3. There's just something about it. I can't put my finger on why I like it so much. It's just the perfect thing. It's like it was just done. It's just done right. You know, it was just done right.
The aesthetics of the game are awesome.
Yeah,
I will give you that. Like, I haven't played it yet, but I've watched some stuff about it.
Yeah.
I've looked at screenshots and stuff. It doesn't look like an awesome, like visually it looks very cool.
It's just there's something that's just very gripping about it. It's kind of macabre a little bit, morose. It's got like the dark side of things. I'm attracted to that, the grim, but there's light at the end of the tunnel when you play this game. It's so fun, and getting past some tough levels is very rewarding. The torch system, the light system, keeping your torches lit, the meal system, the campfires in the dungeons, and like the different players' quirks and abilities, and then going back to town. There's an old game called Heroes of Might and Magic, and it has a bit of that. Like you go back to town, and your different buildings, you can level them up, and based on what you do, you can unlock different quirks for your characters. You go to the dungeons, you pilfer, you find treasures, you find traps, you bring it back, you use it to make your armies better to go back into the dungeon. It's so fun. It's so good. It's just so good. Darkest Dungeon. Check it out. Jake, what's your number one?
So my number one, which should be no surprise to anybody, is Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to dig too deep as to why I like it on here, because I talked about it ad nauseum on those episodes early in the year. I actually started.
There's a takeaway video.
There is a takeaway video on our YouTube that I did on the game. That tells you how much I liked it. I wanted to do a review because I typically am not really all that interested in doing them. But the thing about Immortals Phoenix Rising is I started playing it on New Year's Day of 2021. So I literally started playing it the first day of 2021. And I was like, when I was looking through my games, trying to figure out what I'm going to do for Game of the Year and stuff, I was like, there's no way I played this in 2021. Because I know it came out in the fall. It was a launch game with the console. So I was like, I didn't. And then I looked it up. I was like, sure as shit. It was like the freaking first game I played in 2021.
Yeah, because I was doing Cyber Shadow and you're doing that. Yep.
Yeah, and I played it all the way through to the end. I platinumed it the first time, my first playthrough. It was just, it's a Ubisoft game, so it does have like that formula a little bit, but there's something just really charming about the characters, the Greek mythology, like the more like cartoony sort of aesthetic. It's not like Fortnite cartoony, but it's still like a little bit cartoony in terms of the way that its aesthetic works. I love the just irreverent nature that they give, like how they portray the Greek gods and all of that.
Yeah.
And the combat is like simple, but it's also, it can be complex and it's fun. And some of the platforming can be challenging, but it's also really fun to be able to move around in the world. And I don't know, I like I said, I don't have to go too deeply into it, but it's just, I don't know. I think that the game is just super rewarding to play, and I'm really, really stoked on it. And I really, really hope that Ubisoft makes another one. And I don't know what they're going to do. And it is entirely possible that if they make another one that's not also part of Greek mythology, that like I might not like it as much because it might not be it might not hit the same,
right?
But I don't know. Maybe it does, because they did release that DLC that was like Chinese mythology for it, and I never played it. That doesn't mean it's bad or good. I just never got around to playing it because I didn't want to pay for the DLC. But I might jump back in. I don't know. It's been a long time, so we'll see. But yeah, my number one game of 21 that was not released in 21 was Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah. Did you ever play Kena? I never asked.
I never did.
Okay,
no,
so that wasn't even on your...
I just never got around to it.
It wasn't even an option for you to pick that one. Okay. So let's get into new games real quick. Some of these we discussed last show. We're just going to rip these off real quick and end out the show. It's a longer show than normal. We hope you've enjoyed it. And by the time you hear the next episode, I hopefully will not be coughing this way. My game plan is to be in better health, so we'll see what happens. January 18th, River City Girls, Tanks vs. Tanks PvP, Queenie Army. January 19th, this has already all come out. Dismantle the Enigma Machine. January 20th, Downslope, Hitman Trilogy, Pyramid Quest, Rainbow Six Extraction. We did talk about some of these, but they added to the list. RP Golf Legends. instead of RPG Golf is RP Golf Legends. Windjammers 2, January 21st. Donut Run, Kinduo, My Friend Peppa Pig, and Phlegathon. So there you go. They're the games that are out by the time you are listening to this, the new games on the PSN. You guys can check that out. Thanks again for tuning in to episode 105 of PS This Is Awesome. We don't have a closing music track. If you guys want to submit a song to the show, it is psthisisawesome@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe up there. All that good stuff. We love you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And we will talk to you next time. Stay safe out there. Be healthy. And what was the thing? Turn off your phone, turn on your PlayStation. I think you said that, or we said that on the show at one point. I love it, so we're going to keep it on. So, like Overwatch, Overcooked, and Outriders. P.S. This is awesome.
This is awesome.